IVs in Pokemon have nothing to do with an IV drip or a Pokemon's health, but they are central to its success. You could say, like their genes. So today, let's take a closer look at the concept of IVs. Hello and welcome to today's video. My name is Anxew, and today we'll be discussing an important topic to competitive play, namely that of IVs. IVs have been a topic that may not be well known to people outside of competitive Pokemon, but they are very important. To put it simply, they may mean the difference between just barely getting a crucial knockout and just getting oh so close, and might even cost you the match. So, to help you illustrate today this important concept, we are going to take, once again, our hidden ability Grookey, our friend, and his other friends that I've used for breeding. So, without further ado, let's get started. So what exactly are IVs? And before I start, I'm going to credit Serebii. I'm going to put a link to this page in the description, but this is going to go far more in depth than what I'm going to in this video. I am just going to be summarizing the information into something that's easier to comprehend, because I can talk about all the math, but I'm not going to. So, what are they? To put it simply, IVs means the individual values. So, this concept of genes that I referred to earlier on in the video, it's essentially the genetic makeup of a Pokemon. So it's their individual values, and it's why Pokemon of the same species can have different stats, different number values for their attack, for their speed, even though they're the same Pokemon and the same level. So this is important because if you have, and you'll see on the screen here how this Grookey has two stats that are the best. And if I go over to the next, it will have 3. The more stats that have best, that means that that stat has a value of 31. Pretty good is, I don't know the exact numbers, but I will be putting the serebii website in the description, and I will have a chart that will pop up on the screen that will explain the values, and you can find this chart also on the serebii webpage if you want to just refer there. Again, I will put this link in the description because it is very important in explaining this concept. But anyways, so now you see that there's 3. That means it's the best. That means it has 31 values, and it's essentially how much of a boost that this Pokemon is going to get for that particular stat. And then on the next one, I have 4 IVs. And then finally, the one that I did end up breeding and I've been raising, and I'm actually using it on a team that I am currently using right now. So it's got 5 IVs, it's got the hidden ability, it's this, and this, so this Rillaboom is good to go. So, again, today we're going to be covering how we get from the first Grookey to the last. And again, this video corresponds with the previous video that I just released. I'll put something in here if you want to check out that video. Essentially breeding. So how do you get from the first Grookey to this final product, the Rillaboom? Thing I would like to mention before we start going through this video and I start covering other topics, I wanted to go over one particularly important topic, and that is the judge function. So in your box, if we go to our box, you will, if I hover over here, you'll see all the best. And that is that little judge function at the bottom. Now, this judge function allows you to see whether it has the best stats. So, it's very important that we have it in order to be successful in doing the breeding and seeing which stats are the best. And in order to do that, you have to go to Winden and you have to go through the battle tower, and you have to do 6 battles, whether they're single or double, it doesn't matter. I've done doubles because I prefer doubles, but you would go through and you would win 6 battles, so just one run. You would beat Leon, and then you would get the judge function awarded to you for winning. So that is essential for moving forward with this topic. So now that we got the judge function and we're finally getting into the whole breeding process and you want to start breeding, let's just make sure that we know how to actually read the screen here. So when you get the judge function, you'll be able to press the plus button at the bottom of the screen and it'll show you your stat distribution. Now, if you remember what I said before, these stats range from no good to best. And in between you would have decent, pretty good, fantastic, and I can't forget very good. But so they all represent a number, like a range of numbers that the stat could be at. And ideally you would want it at 31, but not all the time. If you look at this Grookey that I have in my party at the moment, it has a no good attack stat, which I am actually trying to breed onto my Fungus at the moment. So this Grookey has a no good attack stat, which means it has 0 IVs in that stat. I just got it while I was breeding, so I'm trying to pass it on. So I've kept these particular breed checks so that I would know and I would be able to pass on that 0 stat, because especially for special attackers, having that 0 attack stat is very important. So knowing how to read this chart is important, but essentially if you want something with a no good stat, it would have to say no good in whatever stat that you want, and if you want it to be the best or 31, you would want it to say best, just like the Rillaboom does here. Now the next thing we're going to need is, if we're going to be breeding, we need Dittos. Now, luckily, Nintendo was very smart in their placement of this, but if you just come right over here, you see how the daycare, again, if you've been playing this, you would know where this daycare is, but if you just come around the corner here, and there's this little raid den tucked away in the corner, this den gives you Dittos. So it's a very short distance, and I think that was planned. Now we're just going to go over a few different ways that you can pass IVs onto whatever Pokemon that you're wanting to breed, or whatever Pokemon you want. So the most reliable method is breeding. Now, I've covered a video on this, and again, I will be updating it in the future as new games come out, as new info comes out, if I want to update it. But regardless, the most reliable way to pass IVs is breeding, because you're able to control every aspect of the IVs being passed down, and so it is by far the most reliable way. And again, I've done a video on this, I've covered the topic, but if you have anything else that you'd like to add to that video, feel free to leave a comment down in the description, and also leave a comment in the other video as well, stating any information that I may have missed. Alright, so our next stop is Winden. Now this is for a very particular case, because again, this won't happen all the time, but this is still useful knowledge to know. If you're wanting to, or let's say you catch a Pokemon in the wild and it has a mark. Now if you're unaware of what a mark is, if you go to the ribbons page on whatever Pokemon that you have, and it has this little symbol, that's called a mark. Now marks are very uncommon, and you can only catch them on wild Pokemon. You can't catch them in raid dens, you can't breed, you can't pass down marks. The only way that you can get a mark is catching a wild Pokemon. Now in the Isle of Armor DLC, if you complete the Isle of Armor Dex, you will get an item that is called the Mark Charm. So this increases the chance of finding a Pokemon with a mark. Now I don't know how much that it increases the chance of catching one, but having it does increase the chance. So if you catch a Pokemon with a mark, or you have a legendary Pokemon that you can't breed but you want to use competitively, well, how do you get all perfect stats? So that's why we're here in Winden. So if we go inside of the battle tower again, and we go to the counter over here, talk to this man, he will give you the option of, well, which Pokemon do you want to have undergo hyper training. And you can essentially go into the menu, select your level 100, and this is important, they have to be level 100 in order for you to hyper train. And then you're able to train up those stats so that they have 31 IVs in them. And if you want to use a Pokemon with a mark competitively, this is what you'd have to do. And the final way to make sure that you, or ensure that you can get good IVs on Pokemon, is by doing raid dens. Now, it kind of, you'd have to go through the dens or pick the particular den of the Pokemon that you want. So again, Serebii would be a great resource, and I'll put a link to this page as well, raid den listings. Again, I can't stress enough how good of a resource Serebii is. It's a very, very credible source, and you'll find that I'll be referencing them a lot. They are very helpful. But if you go to these dens, they are categorized by typing, so you will find that certain dens obviously have the same types of Pokemon, except if they're promoted raids. Now, this is a promoted raid. There's no way that I can do a 5-star Zeraora raid by myself. I could send an invite out to others, but I won't right now. But, so they will have, Serebii will have a list of raid den bosses that you could find in each of these dens. It's a very comprehensive resource. And again, I cannot stress enough how good of a resource they are. But if you're wanting to find Pokemon that have good IVs, then you would want to be doing higher level raids. And again, if I go in my boxes, I've got from the last event, I got Pokemon with, from the 5-star raids, I have a Togekiss with 5 IVs, I've got a Dragapult with 5 IVs, and I've got a Tyranitar with 5 IVs, all from 5-star raids from that last event, which Nintendo released when they released the raid dens of popular VGC Pokemon. There you have it. There's a bit of a basic guide to IVs. Now, again, I can't stress enough how good of a guide that Serebii is. And again, I will be referencing them in the description. But I hope that from me explaining it, I was able to explain it well enough. And again, if I did miss anything, or if there's any information that I can add in order to make this guide a bit easier to understand or a bit more comprehensive, let me know down in the comments below, and just tell me your thoughts about the video, how well it came out. And again, the next video in this guide will be EV training. Now, EV training is another important concept in competitive Pokemon play, so we will get into that in the next video. So don't forget to check that out when it comes out. So remember, stay tuned and keep learning.